Our lesson for today is entitled Calvary. Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. For it is written, Cursed is every one that hangeth on a tree. Adam and Eve were banished from Eden. Christ, our substitute, was to suffer without the boundaries of Jerusalem. He died outside the gate, where felons and murderers were executed. So we'll go on to our first subtitle, the soldiers part. After Pilate had delivered Jesus to the Roman soldiers, what did they do? Mom?
They do whatever they did before with the other criminals, because they used to do that all the time. That's why everything that they could invented was practiced upon the Son of God. They put the crown of thorns, put the reed in his right, and they bowed knee before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they spit upon him and took the reed and smote him on the head. Everything possible to humiliate him, they did.
Exactly. They treated him as they would have treated any lowly criminal who was actually guilty of horrendous crimes, but he was innocent, but they treated him the same way. Second question, where did the soldiers take Jesus after humiliating him? And who else followed them? So where was Jesus taken after this whole scenario where he was humiliated? Sister Jasmine? Yeah.
And they mocked him and took the robe off him, and they let him crucified.
Exactly. And who else followed them? Brother Dalibor?
People are following them, but his disciples too was distance, because it was promised to his people who follow him that if they gave them Jesus Christ to crucify, they will not be prosecuted.
Yeah.
So they could freely follow the everything.
Yeah, exactly. They were allowed to without having the fear that they would also be treated as criminals. Dad?
And also we can see here that even the priests and the rulers of the Israel nation, they were following just to make sure that this procession is taken all the way to the end.
Right.
Not to allow anyone to save him.
Mm-hmm.
So what a terrible atmosphere. People of all classes following and watching, some of them maybe with a broken heart, some of them with an angry.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a huge contrast, right? Some were there because they were happy he was being killed. Some were there because they were grieving for this person who helped them. It said he had performed miracles and helped their families and helped them through tough times. So can you imagine that, seeing maybe someone, the kindest person you've ever met, being taken to be crucified and some people being happy about it? That's such a horrific scene. So now we're going to move on to the second subtitles, On the Way to Calvary. Explain Christ's physical condition when the cross was placed on him and the accommodation made in order to proceed. So the note was talking about this, what was his physical condition like? We know that he was also human, right? He took on human nature. Mom?
Christ was hungry, thirsty for about 24 hours.
Yeah, or I think more, if not.
Yeah, because he couldn't eat nothing from the Passover that he had. After that, he spent all the night in the Gethsemane, praying. He was disappointed about his disciples. Everybody ran and let him alone, but he didn't get discouraged. And now his physical condition was very weak. He couldn't bear the cross anymore. And then it happened that one Simon from
Cyrene.
Passed by, and they take him and put the cross on his shoulders, and maybe he was thinking, why I came at this hour here to bear the cross of Jesus. But later he was grateful for these things, and he was a blessing for him.
Yeah, I think it played also a big part in his conversion, Brother Orville.
So from the garden in Gethsemane, it was not just physical, it was mental anguish.
Exactly, yeah.
So it says he had agonized in the Garden of Gethsemane in conflict with satanic agencies. He'd endured the anguish of the betrayal that he had seen his disciples forsake him and flee. He had been taken to Annas, then to Caiaphas, then to Pilate, from Pilate back to Herod, then to Pilate again, from insult to renewed insult, from mockery to mockery, twice tortured and by the scourge. All that night there had been scene after scene of a character to try the soul of man to the uttermost. So it was mental and physical anguish. He had, as has been stated, he had not eaten, and he was dragged here, he was dragged there, and even a prisoner today has some reprieve. He goes before a judge, he's given 3 meals, probably has some television, you know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's actually also what I wanted to point out, that I don't know if you've ever fasted, and let's say you're fasting and you're resting and you're still hungry and weak by the end. But imagine what this type of mental anguish does and mental torture. It's something that's really, really hard to comprehend. Yeah.
I just want to ask ourselves, I don't know, maybe other members, they don't have this idea. How many of us, we ever donated blood? If you donate it, you can tell how it is when you
Oh, true.
have,
Yeah. Yeah, you
you are
lose a
so
lot of.
weak after that, weak, because you are not eating before, it's required not to, and when donated, but it's less than liter, but he lost a lot, physically, I can tell that you have any energy, any strength, because at that moment, you feel so weak, you need rest, the body is shocked.
Yeah, exactly. Usually when you do donate blood, you're kept under supervision for that exact reason. And I think also in Ellen White, if I'm not wrong, correct me if I am, when he was praying in Gethsemane, it said that he was sweating tears of blood, which was, some scientists looked into it from just what I've read, that happens in extreme cases, of, mental anguish, like you said. And just imagine, starting from that point, he's already mentally exhausted, and then he's physically tortured, not just once, but a couple times, sent from here to there, and then made to carry this heavy cross. And yeah, I don't think there's any words to describe how horrible this scene is. Going on to question B, hearing words of sympathy, what did Jesus prophesy? So we know that we already discussed that there were people who loved him and they were following him and they were mourning him on the way. But what did Jesus tell them? It says in verse 28 and going on. Oh, sure, yeah.
But Jesus turned unto them and said, Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. Now the rulers had said, let his blood be on us and on our children. And that prophecy was going to be fulfilled.
And very soon after, right? We saw, so he was here prophesying the destruction of Jerusalem, which happened quite soon after, and as well the end of the world, because it said in verse 30, then shall they begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. For if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry? So this is also referring to the last days, right? This is a prophecy that we know for the last days. And Ellen White describes this in detail as well when she says, these people who were mocking and torturing him, the Roman soldiers, the priests, they're the ones who are going to scream this, right? Because they will see his innocence and will see him in his full glory. All right, let's move on. Subtitle 3, The Crucifixion. Describe the scene of Calvary and its particularly heart-rendering effects on Jesus' mother. Well, we have 4 ladies here who are mothers, so I think if anyone can imagine this, it's you. But imagine having a child who's the definition of perfection and kindness. Yes, Sister Jasmine?
There are really no words to describe how awful Mary must have felt. She was fainting from shock and horror. And Jesus thought of her even in his last hour, in his worst possible hour. And he said to John, He said to his mother, "Woman, behold thy son." And then he said to John, "Behold thy mother."
Yeah. Yeah, we see that he still cared about his mom, right, in this moment. Yeah, Brother Dalibor.
But still in this moment, she was hoping miracle will happen
Yeah.
and he will do something and he will not die. Still she, at that moment, she still had hope.
Yeah, I think as long as there is life, we always have hope until the last second, right? Yeah, Dad?
Just going a little deep to this, as a parents, when we see the child suffering, even a cold or something, we will be able right away to take, if it's possible, the burden and everything,
Yeah.
the sickness, and to bear. We cannot suffer. But this picture is terrible. She is looking to him hanging, put the nails in his hands. She hear the beating of the hammer and everything. And she hear the other people, maybe the thieves, making all kind of noises because it was unbearable pain. It was terrible. I don't know. They were exposed to see whatever they never imagined that he would go through.
Yeah, exactly. One action of the soldiers fulfilled another prophetic detail concerning Jesus. What did they do? And John? Yeah, I'm sorry, Brother Alibor, and then Brother Orville.
Yes, they said here they will cast lots for his clothes. So
Mm-hmm.
his garment they tore it apart, soldiers in 4 parts, and they share it. But his robe was made in one piece.
Yeah.
They cannot tear it apart, and so they decided to
Cast
throw
lots
it,
for it, yeah.
and who gain he will gain the whole robe.
Right, exactly. Yeah?
In the note, it says, centuries before the crucifixion, the Savior had foretold the treatment he was to receive. In Psalm 22, for the dogs have compassed me, the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me, they have pierced my hands and my feet. I may tell all my bones. They look and stare upon me. They part my garments among them and cast lots upon my vesture. So this was prophesied. This was prophecy being fulfilled. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you, exactly. Moving on, the King of the Jews. What 3-language inscription was placed on the cross by order of Pilate? And how did the Jewish rulers react? I found this question quite interesting. Yeah? Oh.
So the inscription was Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Nobody told Pilate from the crowd to make this inscription, but a power from above inspired him to make this inscription. I don't know what he was thinking about that, because maybe he wanted to be not guilty about his condemnation. But this inscription irritates so much the rules of the Jewish, and they say, no, don't say that. Say that he was saying about himself that is the king. And Pilate didn't want to hear. He say, whatever I say, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
And was in the heavenly plans to do this inscription.
If I may say
Yeah.
something, I was thinking and meditating why 3 languages like this could choose other languages. And I just come to this, maybe is an extension of mine, I didn't find anywhere. Greek was the old language, like English today,
Yeah.
internationally spoken, because before was the Greek Empire, they just took over the Romans. Hebrew was the present language for the population there, and they understood everyone. Latin could be the future language that will carry. Because
For the Roman Empire.
for the
right?
Romans,
Yeah.
carry later on, even the papacy used this. And so
Yeah.
it was the past, the present, and the future. That everyone, a symbolism of whatever the Lord Jesus Christ says about him. He was yesterday, today, and forever.
Yeah, that's actually a very good analogy. One thing I just wanted to read, going back to Pilate, because I found, this action of Pilate is quite interesting. This is the middle note. It says, the priests saw what they had done and asked Pilate to change the inscription. They said, write not the King of the Jews. but that he said, "I am king of the Jews." But Pilate was angry with himself because of his former weakness, and he thoroughly despised the jealous and artful priests and rulers. He replied coldly, "What I have written, I have written." A higher power than Pilate or the Jews had directed the placing of that inscription above the head of Jesus. In the providence of God, it was to awaken thought and investigation of the scriptures. The place where Christ was crucified was near to the city. Thousands of people from all lands were then at Jerusalem, and the inscription declaring Jesus of Nazareth, the Messiah, would come to their notice. It was a living truth, transcribed by a hand that God had guided. So we see, even though Pilate, he failed. He was angry with himself. He realized what he had done was wrong, and God still used him, in some way, to bring a lot of people's attention to the prophecy. It is true. It was the Passover. There were a lot of people there. Yes.
Now, usually that plaque, that writing, usually stipulates the charge: murderer, insurrectionist, or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
So it says in the note, no offense was mentioned except that Jesus was the King of the Jews, and that's why they crucified him. So, Sister White, this is a remarkable text.
Yes.
The whole of it, that people that from that text, King of the Jews, would investigate and look at the
Yes.
scriptures.
And look why. Yeah. Why is this person named that, Brother Dalibor?
And when they brought him to Pilate, they said, Jesus never said, "I am the king of the Jews." He always
Yes,
said,
true.
"Kingdom, my kingdom is not from this world." So Pilate couldn't say that because he knew it, but he didn't say it. That the Jewish leaders were saying it, not Jesus Christ.
And when he was asked that question by Pilate, he didn't answer. He just said, "You said that I am," right? Going on to question B, what did Jesus pray on the cross, and whom did it include? He prayed a prayer that I think many of us would struggle to pray. And I'm saying personally. Go ahead.
That prayer included Adam and Eve from the beginning of creation to the end of the world. Us
Yes.
here today. Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And then said Jesus, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they parted his raiment and cast lots.
Exactly. So he wasn't just praying for the people who had crucified him. He was praying for all of the sinners, Yeah, go ahead.
And when he was praying, he was right. They didn't know what they're doing.
No. It was
They were so blind what their own obsession that they were blind. They didn't realize actually what they're doing, and they didn't realize that they're crucifying the King of the Universe.
Exactly. It's like sometimes when we're sinning, we're not realizing on the moment. It's like you're held captive by a power, which was known as Satan, and that's what was happening here too. And we can be in the same boat. We can't just say, these people were the biggest sinners. No, sin is the same in God's eyes, and that's why He prayed for everyone. Brother Yarmir?
Yeah, they prove that point that they know what they're doing. When Peter had the sermon over there, like in the Acts of the Apostles, when they realized what they did, they said, what should they do? In that day, 3,000 people were converted.
Yeah, exactly. Going on to question 5. It is finished. Name one aspect of the noble example Jesus left for us. This is going back to his mother. What was the example? Huh?
Yeah, Brother Dalibor was mentioned that he didn't forget, even in the last moments of his agony, he wanted to make sure that his mother is in care of other beloved disciple, and he tell John to take care of his mother, and this is a noble gesture of his life, and we have to follow him in everything. Nothing is less important. Nothing. Everything have importance on this right place.
Yeah. Exactly. In his last moments of life, he didn't forget his mom, right? And he's on the cross suffering, and he still And he is still thinking, he's saying to John, "Behold thy mother." And he made provision for her in a way, right? That was his last thought. Yeah, go ahead.
And we'll see in the next question what else he did on the cross. But in the note it says, even in his last agony, Jesus remembers to provide for his sorrowing widowed mother. The same spirit will be seen in every disciple of the Lord.
Yeah, exactly. It does start here, right? No matter who your parents are, they can also, we're all sinners. They can have their own wrongdoings, but he set here a really great example. Your parents are placed there by God to raise you, and they do their best to, everyone with their different abilities, and it's really important for us all to respect our parents. Question B, whom did Jesus save during the final moments of his sacrifice? So we all know this story. Who was it? There were two people, right, crucified with him. Huge contrast between the two. What did one say and what did the other say, and which one of them was saved? Yeah, go ahead.
Now, in my mind's eye, I see the one, today you will be with me in paradise.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, at the resurrection, he missed an opportunity. Right? He was railing against Jesus, he was mocking Jesus.
Yeah.
And the one said, I am suffering for what I deserve. I am a criminal. But this man has done nothing wrong. And then he
Yeah.
has pardon from God.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking if I was in their place, I could recognize in this man the Son of God. Why he's hanging on the cross like me? I say he did something wrong because everything have consequences.
Yeah.
But he is noble in his character. This man that he say we deserve to be treated like that, but he is not like us. And Jesus say, "You will be with me today in the paradise." And he recognized as the Son of God, but the other one was ordinary man. It was like thief and criminal, but this was special. This.
Yeah. I think it greatly portrays what that sin does not have to be permanent. We choose. We choose, even if we have sinned, we choose in the end who we serve. One chose to stay in that sinful life and chose to continue, being under the power of Satan. But one realized that there is hope, and he saw in this man he saw innocence and purity that was a great contrast to his own faulty and sinful life. And it's beautiful that even the last moment, he was able to be converted, and Jesus told him, "You will be with me in paradise," because he realized his sincerity. He was truly sorry for what he had done. And one last question, what was the significance of Jesus' final cry? What happened when he said it is finished? Caitlin?
Okay, so we see here in John 19, verse 30, when Jesus said it is finished, this was the epitome of the great controversy. This is when that battle between good and evil was essentially won.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we forget that. The battle is already won. Victory is ours through Jesus. And we can see during this time what was happening. So in the temple, it was actually time for the sacrifice. And it's amazing how this timeline intersected. So during that time, the priests, not realizing the significance of that sacrifice, were sacrificing the lamb. And that veil, it tore in two from top to bottom, revealing that most holy place, which signified the fact that we now have direct access to the Father. And we see here that just like in the case of Abraham, when he was about to lift the knife onto Isaac, something stopped him and said, God will provide. And in this moment, we also see that that lamb was not slain as well. And I just want to leave us with this thought here at the end. It says, type has met antitype in the death of God's Son. The great sacrifice has been made. The way into the holiest is laid open. A new and living way is prepared for all. So this is a very hopeful promise here that we have.
Yeah, exactly. As we saw, it was the time of the Passover, basically one of their biggest holidays, which was supposed to point to the Messiah coming, right? And they had celebrated this holiday for many, many years, hundreds, thousands of years. And And now, like Caitlin was saying, the place that was supposed to be the most holy, and no one was supposed to see it, otherwise, they would, I think, die. Right? Am I right? If they would see the the most holy place, they weren't allowed to see it. Yeah, and now that veil broke, and it just shattered the significance of that whole process and tradition that they had, because the Son of God was the Lamb. And again, as I said before, I don't think that we can humanly find the right words to describe these scenes and the agony that he felt and the love that he had for us, to come from heaven, which is a place that we can't even imagine, to this miserable world, and to be treated as a criminal, or maybe even worse. So my wish and prayer is that we keep this story in our mind. I think these lessons are so beautiful because they refresh our memory, and we should, after these lessons are done, continue to read about his life. And sometimes we forget, we go through some tough times and we think, oh, I'm going through such a difficult time. But when we compare it to his suffering, and we know that we have hope because of this suffering. Go ahead.
Yes, you see, Jesus Christ was tortured, beaten. But in this point, he carried on him sins for all human
Right.
race. He carried everything on his shoulders. And still in this moment, he cared for other people. He cared for his mother, for
Exactly.
his disciples. He prayed for the people. It's amazing what he left for us. What a contrast from Satan, that selfish character
Exactly.
and character of sacrifice. It's that everything was revealed there. It was completely revealed character of God, and was completely revealed character of Satan to whole universe, not just to this earth, to whole universe. They could witness the characters of two different sides.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true. And I like the point that you brought out. And that's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier as well, that sometimes when we suffer, all we care about is how miserable we are, and no one is as worse off as we are. But Jesus, I don't think anyone was ever or will ever be as badly treated. Did he care about himself the most? No. He still cared about others. And, in this world today, in this day and age, we see people, they moved away from God. And we see, there's depression, anxiety rates increasing like crazy. I mean, I'm studying this in school, and we're talking about it all the time. And you wonder why. And I think it starts here. We care so much about how we feel. And if we went out there and maybe, did good acts to other people like he did, and cared a lot about other people, it would help us, to shift focus away from ourselves and realize that we have a mission as Christians. So my wish and prayer is that, there's so many lessons from here that we take. And so if we take even, one small lesson from here is to be like him, and to be loving and to care about others. Amen.